Yo, guys, welcome back to the Fit Biz podcast. So, if you have not tuned in to the episode right before this one about limiting beliefs and how to break through them, how to understand what they are, please go back one episode. I highly suggest it. Unless you're like, you know what? I know Trav Train. I know Aaron. I know that I really just need to listen to this today and get over my own shit. Then you can dive right into this episode. But either way, the last one we talked about how do we get ourselves stuck? What are limiting beliefs? And we addressed a couple of them that are oftentimes starter limiting beliefs. But in this episode, we want to dive into some more around sales and getting out of your own way because, man, money limiting beliefs and blocks are just something that stop people. We're going to talk about some of those. We're also going to talk about some of the identity beliefs around imposter syndrome that come up, and then just maybe some higher level beliefs in business. You may be like, no, I can sell my product. I'm confident in it. I can charge what I'm worth. I'm over all that stuff. But maybe you're to a hiring and scaling phase of business. And then a whole other thing comes up around control and bringing people in. So we're going to help you through some of those things today. So Trav, you ready to go again?
I'm ready to rock. Let's do it. Also,
right.
I'd like to just tell the audience that I don't label myself as Trav Train. Like that is a whole label that is placed upon me. Like I'm not walking around my house saying, hey, it's me, Trav Train.
Just it'd be funnier if you did.
Well, we'll see. Maybe later.
All right. So starting with pricing and sales. And like I said, so much comes up around this. Travis, what about just the general, like, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to sell people. It feels wrong.
Yep. It's going to vary from person to person, but the first question that I ask people every single time is, what do you mean? And then it usually turns into a story about someone was in their DMs trying to sell them really hard, and that's not what they want to be. And the response is, okay, like, we don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And not only do we not want to do that, like I have no desire for you to even take that approach whatsoever,
right?
Because we're not trying to sell people here. Like that is not the goal. Like that's not how we teach our students to do it. The goal is to connect and see if we can help someone. That's literally it, as opposed to I'm diving in to do all these things to be super salesy and to make all this money. Like if you take that approach, good luck. Like you're doing it for the wrong reasons probably, and you have the wrong motivations, because people that build multi-million-dollar businesses or multiple six-figure businesses, the money isn't actually the core motivation. It's helping people in some capacity or serving a greater cause.
Yeah, I love that explanation for the whole umbrella of sales. And then what's interesting is throughout the sales conversation, that comes up for you or comes up for people at so many weird different spots. And I just had this with one of our people on our sales team the other day where they said the price of the program, and it's like how we teach our students, just say your price and then just let them give you an answer. And we create a story in our head around that. We go, well, this is a tactic and I'm being sleazy and I'm being pressury and I'm not saying anything and silence is weird. What if instead you just said, I'm just letting them think? Imagine you were in a department store and you walked up and you saw a jacket that you liked and it was a fur coat and you thought it was like a fox fur coat, but it was a real fur coat, and you looked at it and it was $7,000 and you just looked at the price tag, you flipped it over and you just sat there with it for a minute. Imagine if the salesperson ran up to you and goes, but we can do a payment plan, or you can do layaway, or you can do this, or you can do, or is it like too much for you? Or like, what you'd be like, please leave. Just like, give me a second to simply think. So it's finding, those places and questions that you're asking or reasons I think sales is scary. What's the story that you're putting behind it?
This literally happened to me the other day, and I didn't realize until you said that. I was getting a new set of contacts, and I don't know, it was like $400 or something like that for a couple months. And I went to say, okay. And then they did that exact thing. Like, okay, so you get rebates, and then there's payment plans. We have lending options. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, I was just going to pay the bill. Why are you doing this? Please stop talking. But people, it's really their ego that gets in the way. They're thinking about themselves and their own story and projecting that onto the other person, instead of just giving the other person an opportunity to literally do anything.
Yeah. There's so many beliefs under this one. And I think one that we hear sometimes, or maybe I feel like I don't hear this one this often because I think people are afraid to admit this one, but what about I can't charge that because I wouldn't pay that.
Yeah, I love that one. That's one of my favorites. When that comes up on an office hour, I'm like, yeah, one of my favorite conversations. So the first thing I ask somebody with that is they'll say, I would never pay my own prices. And then I usually say, well, aren't you fit and healthy? And like you go to the gym, you know exactly what you're doing. And they go, yeah. And I went, so to you, why would you ever sign up for a coaching service? That makes no sense. Like it is literally has no value to you whatsoever because you have zero problems, zero pain when it comes to your health and wellness. So of course you wouldn't pay it. That would be weird and a total waste of your money, right? Right. It's like, okay, but what about the person that's 30 pounds overweight, that's been yo-yo dieting and like just can't figure out how to fuck to keep this weight off? How much pain do you think they're in? A shit ton. Okay. Do you think that they are going to be like, oh, wow, this is a deal. I see the value in this and like, I'm going to pay it. Yeah. So again, they're not thinking about who's buying it because they think that they wouldn't. Like it doesn't, when you start asking questions, it logically doesn't make any sense.
They're shopping with their own needs, desires, pain. And a reframe I give people sometimes too. And maybe this isn't your story, but oftentimes it is because we get into fitness because we've had this long years after years of being in pain and figuring things out on our own. But if you could go all the way back to the start of your journey, before you became a fitness coach, before you knew what you were doing in the gym, before you'd tried all the diets, and someone said, hey, it's going to cost you $2,000 and I'm going to save you the next 8 years of research, trial and error, headache, broken metabolism, hormonal issues, whatever like you had to go through as a fitness coach, would you say, man, I would never pay that? Or would you say, yeah, please sign me up? It's a lot different.
I mean, we're saving people so much time when things are done correctly and when they're framed properly. And it's no different than what we do at IFCA for people's businesses. Like we're giving you a massive shortcut so you don't have to spend all this time looking at all this wrong information and like, oh, is this right? Is this wrong? I don't really know. And all this trial and error. Like you don't have to go through any of that. That's what coaching and mentorship is. That's why it exists.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So there's the sales side. Let me back up one step. Getting leads in the first place. In my opinion, and from what we've seen from all of our students, we have just seen the market evolve over time. In 2014, you could say, I'm an online coach, click the link in my bio. People would come running and they would sign up for it. And some people were doing it back then and still want to do it now. Other people, frankly, just are kind of lazy and they don't want to adapt to the fact that people want to speak to humans now, because the more banner blindness and the more automated everything gets, the more people actually want to talk to people. And they make talking to people mean all kinds of stuff. So some of the things we hear around having simple DM conversations with people, I feel like I'm being annoying when I DM people. I don't want to annoy people if I message people. What do we say to that? And why is that bullshit?
The first thing I always say to somebody is, how do you know that? And then they just stare at me with a blank face for a little while. And then I say, has anyone ever sent you the message, you're being extremely annoying to me right now? Like, please go away. This is bullshit. And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, so where did this story come from? And it's like, well, this is just what I think based on my other experiences of blah, 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 blah. And then it's like a whole different limiting belief about something else. But again, it's just the story that you're telling yourself that's not serving you. It's like, why don't you just use social media like everyone else does? I have constant threads going with my friends on Instagram because that's what you do on Instagram. But now when you do it to someone else, now you think it's weird because this goes back to the sales thing. You think the purpose is that you're going to sell them, which is incorrect. It's to connect and to see if you can help somebody. Then it's, hey, I think I can help you. We should talk about that. Then down the road, yeah, maybe you get them on the phone. Who knows? But the purpose is just to connect and use social media just like everybody else.
Absolutely. What about, I'm not even going to add anything to that one because I'm just like going to leave the mic right there. It was perfect. I would just kind of be reiterating. What about the other money beliefs, like I wouldn't pay that, but also like I'm from a town where nobody would pay that, or I live in, we get this too. I'm not in in the United States. I'm over in this place where people don't pay that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And it's still back to it comes back to the sales stuff again, where it's, you don't know, you're deciding for other people how much perceived pain you think they're in. I can tell you that every person that I've ever gotten a sales call with that I knew for a fact had a lot of money, but they weren't in pain, never signed up.
No one's ever like, you know what, since I'm rich, here's my money.
Here's just money that I have
Yeah.
laying around. Like, that's not how it works. But I have talked to people that are broke that have paid in full because they can figure it out. And the reality is that all the money, all you guys are charging, it's not that much. It might feel like a lot, but in reality, people can pay for all of your programs on one credit card, or they could open another credit card and put it all on there. Like, you're not draining someone's entire savings. Like, these things don't cost $20,000-$30,000. They're not $100,000. They're like $1 to $3,000. And on a payment plan, like, it's not that crazy. Even for people that don't make a lot of money, if they're in that much pain, they will figure it out. That is up to them, and you're there to guide them. You're not there to decide for them. You can't say, well, you don't have a lot of money, so you can't sign up. But that's essentially what you're doing, and you're not even giving them a chance to decide.
Yeah. And if you go into the call with that mindset, it like conviction's everything in sales. And you're going to say, your subconscious is going to be saying, well, I don't know if they can afford it. So you're not going to sell it and display the value in a way that says you truly need this. And so of course they're not going to afford it.
And the point of the call during the discovery phase and all that is not to figure out if they can afford it. You're just seeing if you can help them. And then if you can, you present your program, you present the price, and then you discuss that. Then like a conversation continues to happen. It's not like it just dies off.
Yeah. In our sales framework that we teach our students, there's actually a really, really clear delineation in energy and question asking when we go from discovery, help this person, to money conversation. So we make sure we can help them. We make sure it's what they truly want to do. And then if it's truly financial, then it's like, okay, cool. So you trust this, you trust the program, which we trust you can get your results. I also trust all of that. Do you mind if we just have an open and honest conversation about your finances? Because this is just money. All we have to do is figure out money now. Cool. I don't mind to sit here and figure out money. No big deal. But you see how we go from coaching conversation to money conversation. We don't sprinkle it in all throughout. We don't sprinkle our thoughts in throughout. We're not trying to justify, well, you know, I meet with you a couple times a week. And then in your mind, you're justifying the price. Keep those two things totally separate, because that's not even part of the conversation yet.
And I think another thing that really helps is,
what about,
there's no reason to pitch someone if you don't think that you can help them. So if you're going through this process, and this helps like get rid of the money problem. If you get through this process and you're like, oh, this person has no idea why they want to do any of this, they're actually not in a lot of pain, like, I'm just not going to offer them the program because I don't even know if they're going to execute on anything.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can help them.
Like, if you don't know if you can help them, the money stuff doesn't even matter. You're not even going to get there.
Right. There's a lot. We could do a whole podcast just around the money beliefs. So many of these are going to be similar, so I'm not going to go into many of those. There are many that come with just imposter syndrome. And I think the overall belief with imposter syndrome comes from like somebody else has something I don't have. They have secrets. They have, this human is like not a human. I'm just a human. They're super special. And under that umbrella falls so many things. One that we see quite often is, I don't know enough yet. I don't know enough about training or nutrition. And why is that oftentimes false?
Well, the only time you're going to know, or the only way you're going to get to learn more about it is by doing it. Like, the best way to learn anything is through action and practice and repetition. So why don't you just try it?
Yeah. And you're most likely a couple steps ahead of your prospect. Like, there's no way you're going to take someone through a sales conversation. They're going to completely fool you. And then they're going to get in their program and they're going to know more than you. Right. So really you only have to be a couple steps ahead.
And it's when people just think they just don't know enough when they don't realize how much they actually already do know. Right? There's that little disconnect, and sometimes you don't know that until you really start working with somebody and you're like, wow, they don't know. They literally know nothing about their health. Nothing. They don't even know they should be drinking water. They don't know how much sleep you get. Like, they know nothing. I know way more than I thought, but that only comes from, that's a belief that needs to be broken by having a client.
Yeah. Start like in IFCA, that's usually broken pretty easily because it's like, all right, start doing ICA interviews. Start just randomly asking people about the stuff they're doing and their pain. And then you're like, oh, wait, this person still thinks fast food is okay. This person, like you said, doesn't understand they should drink water. Then start having sales conversations. And then your confidence just only builds as you're doing stuff.
Yeah. And imposter syndrome is an interesting one because in my mind, the belief there is that because I have resistance around doing this thing, it means that I don't take any action. But if we could even break that, like, there's nothing wrong with imposter syndrome. But if you believe that it's related to you taking action and getting things done, now you have a problem.
Yeah.
What if you have imposter syndrome, but you don't believe that it prevents you from taking action? I have imposter syndrome every single week right before I get on my open office hour calls. I'm still like, what the hell am I doing? Like, who am I to do this, that, and the other thing? And then I go, nah, it'll be fine. I'm just going to do it anyway. And then it's fine. So it's okay to have it. It's not okay to have it and then not do anything and take no action.
Man, I love that. I would almost even go a step further to say that's an indicator that you have to take action. If you're scared of it, if you feel like you're not ready for it, by the time you're ready, that means you probably should have done it 2 years ago.
And it's a glaring indication that that's the direction you should even go.
Right. Because you're feeling something.
Right. You're feeling that resistance. Just go that way. If you turn around and go the other way, I can promise you won't get what you want at all.
Yeah. I love that. This kind of goes into the next one, just in general, a belief that we tend to see is business as a whole. This should just be easier. And maybe students don't come out and flat out say that with the whole thing, right? But it comes up in different ways. Why is that a thing?
Because they think that they're just missing the tactics. So they come in, we have all the tactics under the sun for anything you could ever think of. And all you got to do is follow the tactics and the frameworks. But what happens is they run into limiting beliefs. They run into a version of themselves where they go, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And it has nothing to do with the tactics, but because they don't know what the belief is that's holding them back, or because they need to become another version of themselves, they start doing different tactics or only part of the framework. And then everything starts getting broken down. So people think it's easy. People have this perception that it's easy because they're just missing the tactics. But in reality, it's not easy, because the person that you are today will not be the person that runs a multiple six-figure business. Like, those two people will not exist at the same time. It's impossible. Otherwise, you would already have a multiple six-figure business.
Yeah. A really good example of that we see are my new, it's not so new anymore, but the open office hour call around sales that I've been hosting. And we've been teaching a similar framework for years. But when I spotlight one student and go through their call and pause it at every point that the framework says go right and they go left, and I say, well, why'd you do it like this? When the paper clearly says to do it like this, then it comes up, right? Well, I don't know. I just feel like that is like pressuring them, or I just feel like that's not me, or whatever. And so we're like, well, let's practice it. Let's say it. Was that uncomfortable just now? No, that wasn't so bad. Was it uncomfortable when I said it? No. Why don't you do it like that next time? Okay.
Sounds good.
There's this block. There's something in their head every single time. You're so right. So, and it's harder to identify that it's us, right? So we can look at all the tactics and all the things on paper and we go, oh yeah, piece of cake. Why isn't it working? Well, it's not working because there's something that you're like not letting yourself do it.
Well, and there's another whole rabbit hole of, it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an easy limiting belief because it's easy. It's so much easier to go, my coach didn't help me, than I have some unwiring to do. Maybe my parents taught me the wrong thing. Maybe I've been for 30 years now thinking it's this way when really I've got to go this way.
Yeah. I mean, I have a list of like 10 life rules, and one of them is you might be wrong.
Yeah.
And a majority of the time you either are, or like to a certain degree that you are. And it's such a beautiful thing, because if you constantly think that you're wrong, then you get to say, well, then who or what might be right? I'm going to go figure that out. And I'm going to go find that information, or find that mentor, or find that coach. And it's very freeing if you actually think that you might be wrong about things. Now, don't walk around being like, I have no idea what I'm saying. Like, that's not the point of this. But be open to the idea that you might not have the best information, or like you might be the problem. It's very freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. These days I'd rather be wrong, because that's all that I have control over anyway, and I have just learned that if I can control the things in my life, then I can maneuver them and like do what I want to do. If I place all the responsibility in someone else's hands, I have zero control. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I don't know if I can grow my business. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do that. So, I mean, it's always going to serve you to just say, maybe I'm wrong. And even if you're not totally wrong, or it's not totally you, take responsibility for where you can, because at least you absolutely have control over that.
Yeah, agreed. Very powerful.
Last one I want to get into, that it's a little bit of a higher level student coach limiting belief that we see, but it's a big one. This one's like a brick wall that people run into. And it's when they go to scale their team and they think, I can't hire an assistant coach because everybody wants to only work with me.
It's the ego again,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just comes right back up. So what if you hired a coach that was better than you? Why would someone still want to work with you? And that usually shatters somebody's brain. And they're like, well, because they're following me. It's like, and so you're saying that you would do your prospects or your clients a disservice by putting someone on your roster when you know that you have a better coach? What would make you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's their ego just getting in the way again every single time.
Yeah. It's like this, like you've already influenced this person once, because that's the reason, right? Like they're following me. I'm the personal brand. So like I have influence over them. So what makes you think you can't influence them again when you get them on the phone and say, hey, I have a coach. I would love to work with you, but it'd be a disservice because this coach solves this problem and they're better than me. Oh, and they're my coach and I trust them so much. Hey, I'd love to take you. I just can't, not ethically. So I'm going to put you on their roster. They're not going to say, but you already influenced me to want to work with you. And I don't believe you that this person's better. That's not going to happen.
No. And that makes no literal sense. So it's the ego getting in the way. And it could also be a marketing problem too. If your prospect has no idea that you even have a team whatsoever, and all you do is talk about yourself instead of your team, right? There's a lot of little nuance there, but at the end of the day, it's just not a belief that's serving you. And it's not one that's going to help you grow and scale your business by any means, because you just can't take clients forever. You'll burn out and lose your mind.
Yep. Well, man, I literally have a list of 100 of these in front of me, and Travis and I could go all day. And if you guys enjoyed this, there's nothing I love more, like slide in my DMs or Travis's DMs and be like, here's what I think. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yes, I would love that. I would have so much fun.
Truly, because that's half the battle, right? Recognizing that, hey, this thing might not be serving me. So I would love that kind of feedback. If any of this resonated and maybe there's one we didn't touch on the podcast, slide in our DMs, say, hey, this is where I'm at right now. This is what's stopping me. Tell me why I'm wrong. We will gladly go back and forth and help you out, or record future episodes if we hear a lot of common themes. But yeah, guys, let us know if this was helpful, if you'd like to see more of this. Travis, any last parting words of wisdom?
Outside of you might be wrong, I think that pretty much covers it up. Yeah.
I'd love to know what your other rules for life are.
Do you want me to read them to you? I have them right.
Yeah, actually.
Okay, there's 10. So it is: keep it simple. The past and the future aren't real. Focus creates reality. There's nothing to do but act. Beliefs are optional. probably my favorite one. Everything that you've ever
Mm.
believed in your entire life is optional. Question everything. You might be wrong. Faith is required. Seek extraordinary beliefs. And there are no rules.
I like the last one. I like them
Yeah.
all. You should get those on like a canvas print or something in your office.
Yeah, I can do that. Right now, they're just written down on a notebook. Very fancy.
Love it. Awesome. Well, cool. Thanks, Travis. And we'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.